My dear Mom, Dad, and Betty. Well, at last the censorship is off, and I can say what I've been doing up to a month ago, and stick down my letters, so here goes. Right, now here's my history from the time we were shanghaied out here. After we were underway, and several dozen RAFs draped over the side in the arms of nausea, as it were, the skipper piped up and told us that our first stop was Gibraltar, but beyond that said nothing. We continued southward, and the weather became warmer and warmer, until 5 or 6 days later the Rock came into view in the rays of the setting sun. It was a glorious sight, with the shimmering red-brown of North Africa away to starboard, and the great black rock rearing out of a blue sea, tinted with gold. As the sun completely set, the sea, whenever it was disturbed, was a mass of little lights which glowed brilliantly for a few seconds, and then gradually faded into the deep purple once more. After leaving Gibraltar the next day, we steered due east, and the old man spoke over the loudspeaker system again, and told us that our next stop was Port Suez, and once again he didn't enlighten us further. Halfway through the Mediterranean, we had to go in line-ahead formation to pass through a minefield, and one day there was a bit of a panic when I was working on the wind intensity apparatus at the masthead. They suddenly discovered that the radar was being used. From my point of view, it meant that there was 25,000 volts playing about just above me. But I was well clear, so didn't worry, although I seemed to be the only one who didn't. We were about 5 days going through the Mediterranean, and when we reached Port Suez we didn't stop, but went straight on through the Suez Canal. When the sun went down, the desert reflected the light, and everything appeared to be scarlet, and the sea seemed as though turned to blood. The first time we saw it, we simply stopped, and we looked in awe. I imagine that is where, or how, the Red Sea came by its name. After leaving Trinco, we continued southward, and 2 days out had great fun and games crossing the line. This time, the skipper tells us that we are on our way to Melbourne, much rejoicing, and we arrived in that fair city on the 23rd of December, just in time for Christmas. We left Sydney in full hopes of going home, but in vain. After we were on our way, the skipper once more gave us the gen, and this time we were on our way to Cochin, in India, halfway up the west coast. We reached there okay, and after a few days collected some pranged planes, and carried on down to Colombo, but only to collect a few more prangs. We can get ashore 1 day in 4, and get 1 bottle of beer where we go, and we need to, that being the only drink it's possible to get ashore. You can think of me going ashore under waving coconut palms and swimming in blue lagoons. This is the last page of my pad, and I reckon it's a record too for me, but it makes all the difference having something to write about. Thank God the war's over. Lots of love to you all, your loving son and brother, Cyril.